I'm Ankur Mishra, and let's get started with the news which will have a far impacting development which is there on IT sector, in a crushing move for IT sector in fact, and thousands of Indian workers in US. Trump has reignited the visa debate by imposing a steep $100,000 annual fees on H1B visas for skilled foreign workers. The hike strikes at the heart of India's IT sector, with giants like TCS, Infosys and Wipro top H1B users now facing unsustainable costs. The fallout? Slower project rollouts, offshore shifts and potential blow to India's $250 billion IT export engine. Let's listen into US President Donald Trump on this announcement.
The country would rather not have to pay $100,000 incentive to hire an American. But there may be instances where it's better off doing it through expertise or whatever it may be. But they're both unbelievable, whether it's a gold card or anything else that we talked about today.
Let me go across to my colleague Sumita for more details on this story. Sumita, now this order has been signed. What are the implications you see on the IT sector, and particularly this has been brewing for quite some time?
Absolutely, Ankur. So this has been brewing for quite some time, ever since the Donald Trump administration came to power. In fact, when Donald Trump took office earlier in January this year. Since then, and since the tariff announcement that was made by Donald Trump in the month of April, IT firms have been looking at how the Donald Trump administration is going to move on policies with respect to the IT sector. And this one definitely is going to impact the sector quite a bit, given the kind of fee that the US administration has proposed. Will there be any talks from the Indian administration on how this can be further corrected, how this can be further reduced, given the kind of impact that the IT sector is going to face? We'll have to wait and see on how that really pans out. But Ankur, if you've also noticed the IT index, if you see earnings and results of all of these IT companies, executives stated just one bit, that there is global uncertainty, global geopolitical uncertainty, which could perhaps impact the sector. So it remains to be seen what the impact of this is going to be and how companies are going to come up with their individual solutions. Do they have any individual stances? Because this is going to take up the costs of doing business. And of course, IT companies have a majority share as far as the American IT sector is concerned, the outsourcing ecosystem is concerned. Now, remember, this is also coming in at a time when the political spectrum in the United States had been proposing that there is perhaps a need to tariff the outsourcing industry. This was a couple of weeks back. Nobody really paid attention to that, given the fact that this was not coming in from the administration. But there were some concerns that were building up on account of that. So India now has to deal with an elevated 50% tariff that the Donald Trump administration has applied on India. And secondly, the latest one that's concerning the H1B visas. Remember, the Donald Trump administration has been also looking at cracking down on individuals who are undocumented, who are not staying legally in the United States. So there was some kind of a worry building up on that, and there were some, orders that were floated by US Embassy right here in India and many other parts of the world as well.
Right, Sumita, this is something which we need to watch out for, and in fact, a story which will keep on developing in the days to come. But let's also go across to our guests, CP Gurnani and Ajay Bhutori. Gentlemen, welcome to ET Now. I'll come to you, but before that, let's also hear what Howard Lutnick actually spoke about H1B visa.
$100,000 per year. So the whole idea is no more will these big tech companies or other big companies train foreign workers. They have to pay the government $100,000, then they have to pay the employee. So it's just not economic. If you're going to train somebody, you're going to train one of the recent graduates from one of the great universities across our land. Train Americans, stop bringing in people to take our jobs. That's the policy here, $100,000 a year for H1B visas, and all of the big companies are on board. We've spoken to them about the gold card.
They love it.
So $100,000 a year, that's what the announcement which has come from US and confirmed by US President Donald Trump as well as Howard Lutnick. Mr. Gurnani and Mr. Bhuttori, welcome once again. I want to understand from you, Mr. Gurnani, does it come as a surprise or it was already brewing as per your understanding?
There have been murmurs, there have been conversations that, the minimum wages being paid to the H1B worker. Right now, it's a complex equation where minimum wages could be beyond $60,000 per year, and it was usually determined in consultation with the Department of Labor. So the conversations prior to this sudden announcement was that they will raise the minimum wages to be paid to H1B worker. I personally believe that this is actually restricting the sponsor companies, the American companies, and you're making American companies less competitive because the producer is not paying the taxes. It's ultimately the buyer who's paying the taxes. And here the sponsor will have to pay $100,000, which I think is not fair because clearly US was built on talent, US was built on innovation, US was built on free movement, and US was built on creating technology. We are restricting a US company more. And if you look at the net importers of H1 or applicants of H1, you would realize that most of it is not just the Indian IT services companies. It is also the end users like Meta, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, JP Morgan. They are also the ones who are applying for H1B visas. US needs data scientists, US needs AI skilled folks, and we were filling in the gap by identifying the needs of the market and making US competitive. I think it is more hurting to the US companies.
All right, point taken. It will hurt more to US companies. I want to understand from you, Mr. Bhuttori, do you concur the views that companies like Meta, Google, I'm not coming to Indian companies currently, we'll talk about it later. Do you think it is a kind of hit for US companies first?
See, basically, if you look at, there are around 440,000 applications every year for H1 visa. For 85,000 H1 visa, 65,000 in regular category and 20,000 for masters. And out of this 85,000 visas, like 65, sometimes 65 to 70%, or sometimes 65%, which is around 55,000 H1 visas per year goes to applicants from India. And so they have been, fueling the innovation and the growth in companies like Meta, Google, Facebook, or other companies. And now the question is whether which company, it's 100,000 per year, which means that if an employer hires a H1 visa employee for 6 years, the 600,000 additional cost plus their salary, which has to be bumped up to 150,000 at par with the higher wages. So will they have the budget? I don't think so, that any company will be willing to, if they are hiring like 100 employees, which multiply by 100,000 for 6 years, the budget goes to several $1 million, where the IT is coming, implementing agentic AI at this point to cut down the cost. I don't think they. So what is the good news out of this whole thing? That there will be outsourcing increasing, outsourcing coming to India, to China, or other countries. That's the positive side of the whole thing. What is the negative side? Of course, I mean, for this coming year, this rule is applicable for 1 year right now. And how this will impact in further year, we have to see when this will be challenged in next few weeks in the court, and whether the court will be able to block it. Like every other rule which Trump has done in last 6 months, most of them have been challenged in the court, and they are, have been blocked in the court. So I won't be surprised if this rule will be blocked in the court. And this rule has been done to please its MAGA, base. Trump has been losing on Ukraine war, on Israel war, and on so many things with Russia and on tariffs. And there was something he needed immediately to keep his base excited. And we saw it last year in December when Vivek Ramaswamy was punished out because he talked about H1 visa and importance of keeping it, and then he was trashed by the MAGA. So the MAGA really wants, they have been seeing that this H1B people have been taking our jobs, and now to please them, he says, okay, fine, I stop the H1 program and get them excited. That's one way of looking at it. But the immediate impact of people who are planning to come this September, who got their H1 visa, they will no longer be able to come to US. And if anybody is listening to me and you are on H1 visa, please take the flight now, today, immediately, so that you reach before the deadline, September 21st, as proposed by this rule. Otherwise, you will not be allowed because your company is not going to pay 100,000 for you immediately. So that has to be seen, and how. But the biggest impact will be on the startups and the small hospitals and things who hire people on H1, who bring these doctors. They will not be able to afford to pay 100,000 per year. So they will lose this highly
Right.
resourced.
Right. Point well taken. Of course. So outsourcing is something which will be an impact, and also you are pointing an important issue here. We may see it is going to court yet again, and that is an interesting take here. Mr. Gurnani, I want to understand from you, because you have spent considerable time in the IT company. How will this work for Indian IT companies now? As Mr. Bhuttori was also mentioning, somebody should just take a flight, come back to India. Does it work like this? I mean, how will this be implemented? That is a question which everybody will have.
So, Ankur, just a small correction. What Ajay Bhuttori said was, if you are a H1B visa holder, please come to US as of yesterday, because the law will come into effect and you need to be in US so that your sponsor or employer doesn't have to pay 100K a year. Number two, I think Ajay pointed out that no employer can afford 100K a year. Let's face it, it's more than twice the average wage of America. I mean, an average wage of America is $50,000. And we are now saying is that every H-1B visa, the employer has to, or the sponsor has to pay $100,000. Now, this is clearly, I believe President Trump is trying to keep away the heartbeat of what makes America tick. The heartbeat of America is skilled worker immigration, creating products and platforms in US, and being able to export those products and platforms all over the world, keeping US companies more productive, more competitive. So what I see it as two fallouts. Number one is companies like mine, Ionos, will accelerate AI adoption in IT. And number two is more nearshore labs will be set up, because clearly no sponsor can afford 100K. And number three, I genuinely believe this law or an executive order needs a rethinking. And I'm hoping that President Trump or the government or the judiciary will have a rethink, because it is not in the interest of USA.
Definitely, that is something which needs to be seen, whether or not this is changed. Mr. Bhuttori, I want to also understand one part of the implementation here. You mentioned about the new applications. Of course, the effective date is 21st of September. For existing H1B visa holders, there is no impact, I mean, till the time renewal is there?
I mean, that's what the current interpretation is, that if you are an existing H1 visa holder living in US, working in US, there's no impact. But there is impact that your H1B visa has come for renewal and you have to go to India to get a stamping to come back, you will be issued something called 221F, and the visa will be renewal will be denied until or unless the company pays out 100,000. So today, Microsoft, I have friends working in Microsoft, Amazon, and many other companies. They receive their email from their lawyers and it's telling them that if you are working in US and you then please stay in US. Do not go out of the country. And if your visa has come for renewal, and you do not go for stamping to India or your home country. So companies are they are not clear yet, but they're discouraging employees to going back to their home country to get stamping and stay in US. Now, what is the other big impact is that we have around almost 300,000, 31,000 students who came last year to US to study, to do their undergrad or masters. And most of them, if they are doing masters, they're getting, I think, 2 years or 3 years of OPT, optional training. And after that, they take chances to apply for H1 visa. And if the visa get picked up 4 years, 250,000 or 300,000, or for 2 years, anywhere from 100,000 to 200,000 to take the courses, depending on what courses and scholarship they've got. Now, there was a path that you spend so much, but then you get a visa and you can earn that in few years, and then you have a good American dream and you're making successful. That dream could be lost as of today, as of now, unless until the legal challenges and things change the course of action, which means that if you're coming on student visa, you might still get OPT training, which they have not blocked it yet. But the dream of getting an H1 company willing to pay 100,000 per year, that's is lost for now, until Democrats come back or things change. The other negative impact is that on a lot of Indian IT companies like Cognizant or TCS or many other companies, Infosys, which have a huge number of H1 visa and they hire every year large number of H1 visas. That will be having a big impact on those hiring, and they will have to shift hiring US citizens. They have to put offices out here and start hiring US citizens to continue their services in the US market. I know some companies have already started from India, have already started the centers in US and hiring US citizens, but this will push them more to hire US citizen into their practices and continue their services. So that will continue. And other thing is definitely we have to see that how the medical and the doctors and they get impacted, all the skilled workers. And of course, we have to continue to monitor this.
Right, Mr. Bhutori. I also want to understand from you, once these kind of policies are made, there is a contingency plan, there is a plan in place, or as President Donald Trump was also mentioning that they have spoken to big IT companies in US. So what is that plan in between? Has there been some kind of plan which was already in works?
Typically when a immigration policy change is done of this nature, it has to go through Congress and Senate approval on the thing. But what the smart thing, or I would say the creative thing they have done is, they said, okay, we cannot stop H1B visa program without getting approval in the Congress and the Senate majority. There will be no bipartisan support for it. So they keep the H1 program out there. But then what they have done is, okay, fine, if you want H1 program through an executive order, we increase the fees, and that does not require congressional approval or Senate approval. So they have come around this creative way to discourage use of H1 visa. And now the legality of this rule which they have come out, that we can increase the fees from $2,000 to 100,000. That legality has to be challenged in the court, and we have to see whether this is effective or not. But they have also not given, and typically these kind of rules, they give time of 6 months before they implement it. They went very fast, and they implemented immediately without giving the time to companies to react, without
Right.
how many resources are.
Right, Mr. Bhutori. Point well made. Mr. Gurnani, I want to ask you a question which everybody wants to know now. What should IT companies, especially Indian IT companies, do now?
I think they need to accelerate setting up their own centers, the technology development labs in US. You already know that most of the companies have a decent size, technology centers in US already. Number two is that I think we need to accelerate and magnify the impact we are making on US economy, because I think you're hearing only a one-sided view. Number third is this is not just about the H1B visas. To me, it is more about, if you look at the students coming to US for masters, students after masters staying back, or the talent the skilled workers coming into US created the backbone of the technology economy. There will be no Satya Nadella or a Sundar Pichai if they had not come to US for masters and if they had not stayed back. I think this whole narrative has to be amplified. And number second is, I think the nearshore facilities have to be set up. If some of the companies already have it, some will have to set it up. And number third is obviously we need to, focus more on agentic AI and AI development.
Right, Mr. Gurnani as well as Mr. Bhutori, thank you so much for giving your time and joining at this hour. So now the law has been made. Whether or not it gets challenged in court, that is something to be seen. But all will depend on the strategies of Indian IT companies. How do they move forward? Whether or not there is some kind of a representation which is made to government, or more importantly, does this law stay or not? That is something needs to be seen.